What's going on your
All
end?
right. Okay. Yo, cassette beasts. Have you
Oh
heard?
yeah,
Have
yes,
you
I
heard about
have.
cassette beasts?
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
I did not hear about cassette beasts until the day it came out, and I was like, "What's cassette beasts?" And then I went, "Ooh,
That was on the short list for sure. Mm-hmm.
cassette beasts is so good." So, to those of you who are unaware, first of all, I got a free code, so I'm biased. Second of all, thanks, cassette beast people. Second of all, it's not
Ooh.
Pokemon. Wink.
Mm-hmm.
Wink. It's definitely not Pokemon. It is a 2D retro throwback monster collecting game in which you play 2v2 battles and you transform into little monsters that have puns in their names, like Spring Heel or Traffic Crab. And they all have a bunch of types that interact with each other when you use certain moves. So the fire against plastic is super effective. Um, it has fantastic sprite art. It is a very weird variation of the premise in that it's technically an isekai, but it also has weird, almost like all that weird shit from Undertale, like the
Mm-hmm.
weird shit from
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
stuff like that.
Yeah. So
Um,
it just watching the trailer when it first dropped a while ago, it looks cooler than Temtem.
it looks a lot cooler than Tim.
And that goes a long way to making me want to try this more than Temtem.
Um, it's a lot cooler than Temtem,
Yeah.
mainly because it's not just desperately trying to be Pokemon. It's like remixing things in a really interesting way.
Mm-hmm.
For one, it is so Temtem and this have come to the conclusion that when you play a Pokemon style game, you should probably be playing 2v2 at all
Because yeah,
times.
Pokemon added team battles. Yeah, that's true.
There's a lot of little details that like add up to a lot. The first of which is that it has a really interesting typing system in that it doesn't you have fire, you have water, the typicals,
Mm-hmm.
right? But every single interaction between those types is unique. Um
In what way?
so the one that really comes to mind is that earth types attacking poison types, it's not just that the move is ineffective. The earth type move is providing the nutrients that the poison type needs to poison up. So attacking them makes the poison type stronger. So like
Okay.
like a type disadvantage doesn't just mean you're doing more damage, you're also actively buffing the person you're attacking.
If that's the interaction between the two. Interesting.
If I believe it's an air type fucking blow no, if an air type attacks a fire type, they get a attack down because the fire types like got extinguished.
Mm-hmm.
But if a fire type attacks a air type, the air buffets the flame away and creates a shield in front of them for multiple turns in which they take no damage. It's a pure shield.
Whoa. Okay.
And my personal favorite is fire versus plastic. If a fire type breathes fire onto a plastic type, that creates poisonous fumes and it turns the plastic type into a poison type for the rest of the fight.
Whoa.
And then fire against poison is a huge increase in damage as well as a debuff.
Whoa.
Like
That's
it is a really and there are 15 types.
but with robust interactions,
They
that's
all have
fine.
weird fucking interactions. Like Earth also extinguishes fire, for example.
Huh.
Um, on top of that, it has so the monsters, they're not Pokeballs, they're cassette tapes
Yeah.
that you're playing in your Walkman. And so shinies are called bootlegs. And shinies are so in Pokemon, a shiny is look at that monster, it's yellow, right? Instead of orange.
Mm-hmm.
And it's purely for rarity. First of all, the shinies in bootlegs are a hell of a lot more common than fucking shinies ever were, because I got one within an hour. I got a bootleg Spring Heel. And the difference between bootlegs and shinies, it's that bootleg is the Spring Heel is a physical type attacker. I got a bootleg Spring Heel and it was a poison type. And in the list on the monster, there is a bootleg for every type.
So it's not a shiny, it's a completely different version of the monster that gets different moves.
No, what it does is it gets all the same moves, but most moves in Cassette Beasts are not typed. Their type is actually so let's take Tackle, right? That's the basic move. Tackle doesn't have a type. Tackle has its icon, instead of like a leaf or a fireball, is a little square with a circle in it that means like neutral. And all of those become the type of the monster it's on. So if you have a poison type, then Tackle is poison. If you have an Earth type, Tackle is Earth.
Okay. That
so if
simplifies.
You have a Spring Heel that is poison instead of physical, now all of those change and they're stronger. So the way that moves work is like TMs and HMs, like, oh, I add this. The idea is that every move on your cassette tape is a sticker that you have physically placed. Like, you've placed the Tackle sticker, you've placed the Life Leech sticker on it. And you can just pull those off and put them on any compatible monster you want. So, if I wanted to go get a bunch of monsters and just take every sticker off of them and then delete them so that I have a bunch of moves to put on monsters I want, I totally can.
This is a brilliant example of extremely well thought out game design, right? Because what you're describing here is simultaneously adding complexity to the existing interactions everyone's familiar with from Pokemon, but simplifying it from a programming point of view, where you have a type that is separate from the list of moves you're going to do. These moves are all going to take on these properties, but you don't have to instead create a giant exhaustive list of single type use, single state use moves.
Yeah, and some moves are single state. Like moves that fire breath happens, they're fucking fire moves.
Sure. Are there any hybrid types, or is it like switching from one to the other as that example provided?
So there is let's take I'll use Spring Heel. Spring Heel's 001 on the list, and he's a physical type. He's Rattata, right? So I can equip a move on Spring Heel that says turn anybody on this field into a water type.
Okay.
So I could, if it works out, I could pair him with a lightning type, and then have Spring Heel turn the enemies into water types so that electrical can zap them
and stack two disadvantages.
Yeah. You can also a lot of defensive moves. They're not like, oh, your defense went up. It is, I'm putting a physical fucking wall up in front of me, and those walls don't necessarily have to be your type. They can also be a different type, which makes it stronger or weaker depending.
Wow.
On top of all of that and the bootlegs, there is dual typing, but dual typing does not work the same as Pokemon, where someone's like a fire or an ice type. What happens is because you are always 2v2, always. If I say have a spring, what was it called? What's the not zombie goat? Bansheep. Bansheep is the ghost type that you can start with, which is a sheep that's a ghost. Say I have Spring Heel and Bansheep on the field. No, let's fuck it. Springfield and Toxicroak, whatever. A poison and a physical type. Doesn't matter,
Sure.
right? And your bar fills up. You fuse them together, and they
Oh,
get all of the moves from both. They double type, and all of their moves become double typed.
okay.
In
So
addition, this is the really impressive part. There's 120 monsters in this game. They fuse into a different looking, unique monster
and this is where
that has its own name.
this is where the meta just opens the fuck up and becomes insane. Yeah, okay. That's fucking impressive.
So
Are there also evolutions?
Oh yeah. Not only are there evolutions, when I took my band sheep, your tape levels up from 1 to 5. That's the level system for your cassette tape.
Sure.
Right? So my band sheep hits level 5. I sit down. Evolutions happen when you rest, so you get to choose when you do them. I sit down and I go, okay, I would like to evolve my band sheep, right? And it says, do you want your band sheep to ascend or return to the earth? And I go, return to the earth? And I get Zombagoat, which is a fucking maybe that name is wrong, but I get a sheep corpse holding a tombstone. And then I look at the list and like, sure enough, there are 2 evolution chains from your starter.
Eevee. Mm-hmm.
There are evolutions that depend on whether or not you evolve them at Zombleat. That was it. Thank you, everyone. There are evolutions that depend whether or not you evolve them at day or night. Or
naturally,
when I evolved Traffic Crab, you can evolve Traffic Crab into fucking a Weevil Light or like a huge garbage monster, and it depends on, do you want attack or defense.
So is each of the, you said 120?
Each of those count as one.
But each base type has two directions to go
no,
up?
Not all of them.
Okay.
Some of them just go one to the next to the next. Okay. Some just have one. Some don't. Some split. Some have night and day variations. They're all different.
And do they go, let's say, up or down, and then there's a third form? Or is it...
So Zombleat has a third evolution, which is the final form of Banshee that's returned to the earth.
Okay,
and then Ascended Banshee has a third evolution.
Yeah, War Greymon.
Like, your starter has
Angelomon. 5. Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Now the fusion system isn't like it's really useful and super cool. They're basically using the body of one and like the arms of another and like slapping them together. And some of them kind of look like shit because the sprite work is doing its best.
Have you ever seen the Pokemon Fusion machine?
Yeah, it's wild that came out like relatively recently.
Mm-hmm.
On top of this, you're fighting wild monsters, you're fighting trainers, you're fighting the usual. It's not gyms. You're going to get approval from all the different rangers, but it's totally gyms. But I also found a bunch of other cool little things. Team Rocket in this game is landlords.
Okay.
They're real estate developers.
Sure.
And they look like vampires, and you're going through those fights. And there's also like wild roaming bosses, which are like really, really tough because the system they've made has allowed for dynamic roaming bosses, because you get to the boss and you go, okay, before you even get to fight the boss on the field, you're going to have to go through like 8 monsters in a team battle, like a full gym leader before you even start.
Mm-hmm.
Then you get to the boss. The boss is a fusion of 2 different monsters. So it's double typed. It's completely unique. You'll probably never see it again. It's super strong. It has double the stats. And once you defeat it, it will split into its components, which can include monsters that you wouldn't have otherwise met. So I got like some electric bird. I couldn't remember the name because that I'd never seen anywhere else in the game, because it had been fused as part of this boss fight. and
Okay.
I was able to unfuse it and then grab it.
Fuck.
One of the other things, like all these little pieces that are nice, you don't just throw a ball and be like, well, it didn't work, right?
Yeah.
You pick one of your two characters and you go, I would like to record this monster now, right? And then a percentage comes up from 0 to 100
Mm-hmm.
of your likelihood of capturing them on the next turn. So if they're full health and you're at a same level, it's like 20%, right? You can then use your other character to beat the shit out of them, and the recording will keep going turn after turn after turn. And the harder you beat them, the closer it gets to 100%. But you can't kill them. And I don't mean like you shouldn't kill them. I mean, they will not die if you are recording them. The percentage of catching them will only go up and go up. So you cannot accidentally KO them.
Interesting.
Just keep beating on them until they record.
Okay. I do understand that like the accidental KO, like get them to the edge bit was like a strategy thing to make it a little bit more, like tense to see if you can get it right on the edge. But if you get too strong, which everybody does,
yeah,
it becomes a massive problem. That's pretty good. Wow. So do you ever run into wild ones that are like in teams, or you always run into singles?
Yeah, you run into wild ones that are in teams.
Okay.
It's like little overworld enemies like Chrono Trigger where you run into the enemy to fight them. And then it's usually 2, maybe 3 at a time.
Oh, and do they fuse?
No.
Yeah. Okay.
Wild ones outside of the roaming like super boss things will not fuse in their own fights.
Man, what a fucking yeah. This is it
so
sounds as great as it
made,
looked when I saw it. Fuck yeah.
Also, I can't not mention that it has a fucking bitchin' soundtrack.
Of course, it's music themed. Of course.
It is 80s as fuck. It's like Pat Benatar cross like Paramore, like female vocalists 80s power rock.
Mm-hmm.
The town theme is incredible, but when you go into buildings, the lyrics kick in.
Yeah. Okay.
Boss fight and regular fight music is incredible, and when you fuse, the lyrics kick in. And it's a good trick. It's a really good fucking trick.
The best trick in the world. I mean,
but if you hate that shit, there is an option in the menu that is just straight up, I would like to turn off the vocals in general so that I can keep the music at like a steady level. You can just remove fucking vocals. It also has...
It's not like the most memorable part of a a platinum Metal Gear character action game wasn't the music and how it's implemented. When you think about Revengeance going like in retrospect, like the takeaway was not any of the crazy Metal Gear memes and shit like in the traditional sense. It's the goddamn boss fight music.
Mm-hmm.
That's such an effective trick, man. Layered sound, layered music, instant immersion.
On top of that, it also has a fantastic series of difficulty selections. So the default difficulty includes level scaling, where baby piss fights will attempt to jump up a couple levels so that they're not a joke.
Mm-hmm.
And stuff above you won't come down. But you can move it to Oblivion level scaling of everything will try and match you. Or you can move it all the way to no scaling at all, in which the game will just not. It can also move it to everything everywhere will level to you from the bottom, but everything above you will tell you to fuck yourself. On top of that, the default difficulty for fights is the smartest version of a Pokemon game I've seen, which is monsters will use attacks randomly. Trainers will target your type weaknesses.
Brilliant.
Wild animals will do bullshit at random.
Will be wild, yes.
Real opponents will try and fuck your shit up.
Yes, strategically. That's fucking great. Wow, man. That sounds like great accessibility too, in terms of just like the variety of difficulty choices.
It also has drop-in co-op.
Okay.
Because you have a second player with you at all times. You hit start, go to co-op, and then player 2 hits start, or enter, and you're done. That's it. That's how.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah, so I saw
and
footage of that where I saw two people walking around. Yeah. So, is trading a thing? Is
I don't
there?
think so.
Okay. It's a
Pretty
single
sure
player.
it's a single player, non PvP thing. It makes sense with the scope
No
because
online. Okay.
it's $20 or about 30 Canadian. It was made by primarily two dudes, and one of those dudes did his brother did all the music, and then a lady sang the music. So it is a total staff of 4.
Okay. Fucking brilliant. Yeah.
Slam dunk. Absolutely incredible.
That is it's just that's instantly such a harder sell because again, I thought Temtem, looked cute. I thought it looked fine and I bought it. I just it's just clear that like the path that Pokemon laid out, they followed,
Yeah. Aggressively.
And what anyone who's, I'm sure, a fan of this genre starts doing 2, maybe 3 games in is going like, man, I could fix this. I would do this, I would tweak that, I would da 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 da. And this feels like, yeah, like an overhaul to so many things that obviously like Pokemon would never do because it would change too far from what the formula is. But that's a amazing, smart way to have depth while simplifying things.
Yeah, it's
ace.
It's like every couple of minutes I encountered some minor detail that I was like, oh yeah, that's really good. Wow.
See, now Pal World is in fact not out yet, but Pal World doesn't have to be mechanically
good.
Tight.
It doesn't have to be good at all. Actually,
it just needs to deliver on the promise of sweatshop bullshit gun Pokemon.
That's it.
And subversive commentary about our fucked world. That's all Pal World has to do.
Pal World just needs to have good memes, and that'll do it.